Right, it's Gadget UK here again. As you can see, looking at an N64 car here. It's seen better days. You know, the label's a little bit worn here. It's really dirty. Look how mucky that is around the back. So it's described as faulty. We'll get the screws out. I need to use one of these little game bit adapters. It's smaller than the screws on the actual N64 itself, actually. It's a couple of sizes smaller. Just interested to see whether we can recover this. I do know that you can't use normal EEPROMs and things, or even EEPROMs, because the serial, it's kind of like a serial. There's a mask ROM in there, and there's like some sort of serial, a multiplexer or demuxer or something built on into the chip here. So straight away you can see, look at the state of those. What's happened with that there? Can you see all the scratches and stuff and bare copper? I've got no idea what's happened to that. Let's try and get it out and have a look on the underside. I think they've assumed there's a connectivity issue. I mean, there's a little nick there, we've got a gap and a trace. Hopefully we might be able to fix it. But it's shocking how bad that is. Yeah, I think we might have lucked out. Can you see here? We've got some damage there. So I'm going to patch these up, but I'm going to get the fiberglass pen on here and some IPA, clean this all up. What I might do is get some solder and flux and recoat these with some fresh solder on both sides, actually, because they just look awful. Now, if you saw the Saturn video I did on the King of Fighters ROM cart there, you'll know that I recommended to not use a fiberglass pen, but you know, that's so warm there, I really want to go over it with fiberglass pen here just to clean this up. It's like there's been some corrosion, someone's got to go trying to fix it up, I think. In places they've removed more of the solder than others, that's why you can see the bare copper there, because these would have been perhaps solder coated. They may have even originally had a bit of silver or gold on there, but I mean there's nothing left on there as it is now, it's just like bare solder. So I think we'll clean them up this way first, then use the IPA, and then I'll focus on that trace that we spotted on the other side that was damaged. Yeah, that's not too bad. It's like this here is actually corrosion. I wonder how this has got into this state. I mean, this area here, there, I'm sure we've got a break. Hopefully we have. I mean, if we haven't, it's going to be game over. It's hard to tell. So I'll be honest, it really annoys me when someone goes at a board like this and just turns it into the state this is in. You can see I've just tinned up a couple of traces here. I haven't finished this yet. I need to clean it up, add a bit more flux. But the damage is not round there. I just listed this cap, just have a look underneath, because can you see there's like little nicks there where the component was over the top. It's very strange. Maybe the moisture adhered to the underneath of that and then it's just corroded the top of the traces off. But there was a little black mark here, and I don't know how well you're going to be able to see it, but there was actually a gap there. So the muppet that did all this damage to this just overlooked the obvious, which was a little black dot there that you could just think was a bit of flux, but actually when you removed it there was actually a gap in the trace. So I suspect that that's where the damage is. But what I will do is I'll do exactly what I've described. I'm going to flux up all this here and retin the whole thing on both sides, because it's just an absolute state, it really is. So there we go, it was never going to be perfect. You can see all I've done is cover it with some chip quick flux, use some desolder braid with a bit of solder and just drag up and down each one of these. I've covered up the exposed traces as best as I can there. So yeah, it's not looking perfect, but bear in mind it was really scratched, and there's still a bit of areas here where the solder mask has come away a little bit, but it's you've got a coat in there now, that's the main thing. And you can see where I repaired that trace there with a bit of coil wire, just a single strand just over that little bit there. I scratched it off at either end, put some chip quick flux on there, single strand of that wire there. It's very, very fine stuff, it's like a hair, and just carefully hold that in place until you get a join with some solder and just snip it off. So we'll reassemble it, clean up the cart shell. So I just used the fiberglass pen there to get the bits of corrosion off, but I just cleaned up the rusty bits there and then used WD-40 on paper towel there just to wipe over that so it shouldn't corrode again. So you've got your piece of shield on the bottom, this plastic piece at the bottom here, slide the board in, this piece goes on the top there like that, this one, the final bit hinges on from the bottom, that's it. We can now get the screws in and clean the case up. So I'm not even going to test it before I've cleaned it up actually. So I thought I'll clean it up and reassemble it before I actually try it, because I've got that high level of confidence that it's going to have fixed it. You can see how much better it is. I mean, there's still a couple of little yellow marks, can you see there, where those little scratches are on either side. But I think you'll agree that's a lot better, actually. You know, the sides and the top have all been cleaned up. Yeah, it could do with a new label. I could always get a new label for it. And there's a little bit of yellowing just there. You know, it's been really scuffed on the underside. But that's not too bad, so I think we'll plug that in and give it a try. And I thought I'd show you, this is the sort of coil wire I use for this sort of thing. Can you see? Oh well, you probably can't, I can hardly see the thing. Just look how small this is. You see that? It's like the thickness of a hair. It is super fine. You don't even need to remove the enamel layer, you can just heat the tip with a soldering iron for maybe 10 seconds. Pull the iron away and you'll see it's just melted a little bit of the enamel off, and you can just, you know, what I did is just melt enough of that off, you know, a good 2mm or 3mm, so that it was all exposed. Get some flux on the that trace there, add a little bit of solder onto the tip of the iron, and then I just held this as straight as I could across that trace, and just heated it, you know, all the way along the area that was exposed, and then inspect with a magnifying glass. Could see that it was joined on both sides of the brake, and just used the cutters there to snip it off at the point where it, you know, it ended effectively. And that was it. It was as simple as that. So this is one of the simple 64 carts from Mindflare Retro. This is one I'll make up at some point, but I want to show you the process because I didn't actually film it when I did it. I was so eager to just get on with it and see if it worked. But these have got solder. There's solder already on there. You know, some PCBs, you can have them pre-tinned, if you like, with a bit of solder. So all I'll do is get a little bit of flux on there like that. Take your desolder braid, snip it off so that you've got no solder on there. Clean your soldering iron up. I really should put a new tip on this. I do have one. Can you see it's a bit bulgy here and it looks a bit corroded, but you know, the actual tip, as you can see, is still good. But yeah, I mean, I could just swap it out. I could do with getting a new iron actually. This 15 watt iron is fine for most things, but I've been meaning to get something temperature control for a while. But yeah, add some solder to your tip there. And it might seem like this is counter-intuitive kind of thing, that you're using this desolder braid here, which is designed to remove solder, but all we're going to do is use this with a bit of solder to actually help introduce some solder. And with the flux there, if you use a good quality flux, just drag it in a straight line like that. Can you see that? And hopefully you can see I've removed the solder was there. If you look at that one, can you see it's a bit more of a lump on it? You know, the one next to it. This one's totally flat. I'll clean this up with a bit of IPA now, but you'll see all I've done is just, in this case, remove the extra layer of solder, but all it does is it leaves a very, very fine layer of solder on there. And in the video a minute ago, it might not look very straight, you know, it might look a bit jagged and stuff, but it wasn't, trust me. If you do what I've just done, just go really super slow with a decent quality flux, something like chip quick flux, it will leave a perfectly straight, smooth, flat surface. Because what you don't want is tiny little uneven parts of solder on these when you put it in and out of the system, because that can wear your cart slot or damage the cart pins. So it is important that, you know, you inspect like this, I'll show you in a sec up close, in the right light to make sure there are no particles or uneven surface there, so that when it goes in and out of the system it'll be okay. I'll just clean that off with some IPA. And I'll put you on macro so you can see this. So hopefully you can see what I'm on about now. These other connections here, can you see they've got like a rounded surface to them because of the small amount of solder that's been you know, put on there, pre-tinned from manufacture. But just look at the one I've done. Just dragged the soldering iron down there with some solder braid and a bit of flux. Can you see it's removed that solder? But had this just been a bare exposed trace or a damaged pad, etc., it would have just cleaned it up nicely. So you wouldn't need to do that on every single cart. You're only ever going to need to do that when they're in as bad a condition as mine were. Now what I don't understand is how some of mine were coppery. You know, it makes me think that they will perhaps all like this, pre-tinned or gold plated, and someone's, you know, scrubbed them off, some more than others, down to the very bare copper, which is why some of them were copper and some of them weren't. So let's give it a try. Oh yes. It's always nice to score a win from a complete muppet that tries to con you, because that's the other thing. He said that he thought there might be some corrosion there. You know, it's £3. You know, this guy's been trying to sell this for weeks. Started at like £7 or £8. So who's going to pay £8 for a faulty N64 cart? Now bear in mind it's a good game. GoldenEye is pretty sought after. I don't have an original copy of this, well I do now. But yeah, it's just the way he's tried to sell it, describing it as, you know, may have some corrosion. Clearly he's been in there, he's sanded it down, he's, you know, done everything apart from actually fix the damage there. You know, the area that's over sanded wasn't the area that needed focus on, it was just that single trace. I suspect it could have been cleaned up and it would have looked an awful lot better than it does at the moment, had he just done what needed to be done. But anyway, it's a win for me. Fantastic. Absolutely brilliant. Oh yes, I will have fun playing this. It's hard to believe that this was deemed cutting edge at one point. Look at the AI here. I made the mistake of following him, thinking he knew where he was going. Clearly he doesn't. So yeah, Mr. Bond has certainly seen better days. Sorry it was only a short video, but hopefully you found it interesting. Thanks for watching. I'll see you soon.